I'm getting my coffee. Just a little bit too quick on the draw today. You might have guessed that. Now we'll see. Got my coffee. Now we'll see what we got for. You might have guessed that. Here I come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We're talking provenance in many ways today. So hang on, and I think you'll enjoy it. But first, we're going to start with Tom Fishburne. Bots, buy bots, for bots. Okay, the good news is we're getting lots of engagement on our AI-generated content. Amazing. What's the bad news? Looks like most of that engagement is coming from AI-generated traffic. Yes. There was a political comment earlier in the week or last week that it was something like the cockroaches voting for Raid. And marketers seem to be content these days with just generating lots of activity, and if you think your marketing staff is doing that and you're the CEO or the CFO, it's probably true. There's a funny conspiracy theory that the internet secretly died 6 years ago, and it's mostly now bots communicating with other bots, said Caitlin Tiffany in The Atlantic last year. The dead internet theory suggests the internet has been almost entirely taken over by artificial intelligence because, it's easier to replicate bots than it is to get views. YouTube for a time had such high bot traffic that some employees feared the inversion, the point where its systems would start seeing bots as authentic and humans as inauthentic, which most humans are. Bots are authentic as bots. But when they try to act like humans, well, then they have to act inauthentic. I think that would be the epistemological view of the situation. Caitlin said that it's a conspiracy theory, but the theory feels true. Security network company Barracuda reported that only 36% of all internet traffic is human. The rest comes from bots. Good bots like search engine crawlers and bad bots, ranging from fake traffic to advanced malicious bots, right? And then we got other bots to fight the bots. Ironically, much of the content available now online is also increasingly bot-generated, particularly content from brands, churning out headlines, articles, illustrations, product reviews, and even videos. Capterra reported that 82% of marketers agree that content generated by AI or ML software is just as good or better than that generated by human-generated content. Again, humans aren't that good of writers. There are good writers. And yet, Tom found it funny that when you read the headline, it says 82% of marketers say AI-generated content is good as human-generated one. Which is clearly no one's reading that unless it's called out to them, because that is not proper grammar. And so probably was generated by a human. That's the irony of the whole thing. It's like computer driving cars. I don't know what exactly to call them because they're not self-driving exactly. There is no concept of self in the car. But computer driving cars don't have to be perfect. We have this artificial standard for artificial intelligence. It has to be perfect, but really it only has to be better than humans. And I've read a lot of bad headlines written by humans. KFC Germany had to apologize because this week their bot decided to celebrate the anniversary of Kristallnacht. That was the night when the Nazi party encouraged thugs to break the windows of Jewish-owned stores. And it's got a nice name, but it means glass night or something, where all the glass is broken. And it's Memorial Day for Crystal Knock, treat yourself to more tender cheese on crispy chicken now at KFC. Cheese, yeah, that should have an apology. So anyway, here's a bunch of other cartoons. Consumers want communication that's human, empathetic, and real. So hopefully our AI generator can learn to generate content like that for them. I read an article exactly like that. It said that the key to e-commerce success was personalization and engagement with your customers. And hopefully the bots will be able to do that shortly. It's like, okay, right. Yep. Okay, this was a comment on Tom Fishburne's post of the cartoon. And this guy actually went and cited some of the HubSpot idea generators headlines. Why we love cervical cancer and you should too. Miley Cyrus and cervical cancer, 10 things they have in common, or 10 quick tips about crack cocaine. And I threw them in from this next article. And this is Mark Ritson, who I always like to read and reply to and stuff. Consumers no longer care about provenance, if they ever did, except in Cockermouth. And that's a Cumbrian city, okay, near Lake Windermere, or maybe on Lake Windermere. And there's this beer style that Mark Ritson wanted everybody to try on the night before his wedding. And he took his relatives around town and tried to find this beer because he said it was really, really good beer. And it was only available in Cockermouth, Cumbria. And he also says that his own Ancestry.com profile is completely 100% Cumbrian. His wife's is all over the world, splashes of Jews, Arabs, Vikings, Scots. Mine is a big immovable red dot in the upper left corner of England. So anyway, he dragged his future in-laws around town and finally found a bar that served Jennings Cumberland Ale. Okay. And they agreed that it did taste better, but that's not really the reason that Mark wanted him to try it. It was because it was a boutique brewery down the road and also tasted better than any other beer. And the Aussie in-laws did sort of agree. But anyway, in 1828, the brewery moved down the hill to Cockermouth and got access to a Norman well that had distinctive Lake District water that gave Jennings its distinctive taste. But the little brewery was just closed down this month. It had been sold to Carlsberg a while back, and they couldn't make it work in the days of COVID-19, climate change, global consolidation, and the recession. And probably mostly it's just like they already had a big brewery working down the road. My cousin worked for Miller, and he said, you could pretty much make any kind of beer you want in a big brewery. It's just a question of how to market it. And so they moved it down the road about 70 miles south, I think. And so Mark is, we drank Jennings because it was Cumbrian, but then it was acquired by a non-Cumbrian company. We drank it because it was the boutique local option until a handful of smaller Cumbrian microbrewers like Keswick Brewing Company and Tractor Shed sprung up and immediately out-Jenningsed Jennings, both at being more local and having better, fresher, more interesting beer. So, I have a hard time lamenting this, to be honest about it. I usually drink whatever the the Huber Brewery down in Monroe, Wisconsin, happens to be making inexpensively at the time, because when we were in college, we bought a 6-pack of the new Pabst uh, supposedly craft beer, and it was called Erlinger, which sounds a lot like like those funny those funny bugs that have those pinchers on the back of on the back end of them. Earwings, Earlinger. Anyway, so we tried that. We bought a 6-pack of that, and we bought a whole case of Huber, twice as much for the same price. And it's the disparity is even greater nowadays in beer. You can buy a 6-pack for $12, so that's $2 a bottle, and you can buy a 24-pack for $6 probably of Huber something or other. Mountain Crest was my latest, but they're not selling it at the Piggly Wiggly anymore. Anyway, so Mark is lamenting that people don't care that much about the history of a 200-year-old brewery, and there's probably a lot of truth to that. He says your ashi was made in Chiswick, not Shofu. That reassuringly expensive pint of Stella is from Wales, not Leuven. And your Becks might claim German brewing heritage, but it's from Luton. Why stop with beer? My Land Rover Defender was built lovingly in Slovakia. Does anybody think Volvo is really a Swedish company? And no. And what's interesting is England has a high level, or a disproportionate number of car designers, and they outsource their work to Volvo, to the Chinese and Indian companies that have bought these legendary brands. So it might be designed in England, it might be manufactured in Wuhan or somewhere. It's really amazing, and it only matters until you can't get any parts or anything anymore. That's when it starts to matter. That's when Caterpillar comes through, is when your bulldozer is broken by the side of the road in some jungle somewhere, and they promise to get you parts in 4 hours. Okay, you want reliability, you have to leave Sweden for Slovenia. You want better value, you need a plant in Gabon, not Germany. Gabon, is that in Africa? I don't even know where that is. I meant to look it up, so you can hit me up in the comments. Anyway, Carlsberg Marston's might as well have announced that it moved the brewery to Wuhan and now is making it from old tires and donkey dung. Anything south of Penrith is like my indigenous family tree, frankly non-existent. Yeah, okay. So there's some of that left in the world. I have had Guinness. Talk about licensing. This only matters when you really know the right answer. So I've had Guinness for all over the place in a number of countries where I thought it might actually be any good, and it was always bitter and very, very strong flavor, if not any good. But we had a layover in Dublin a number of years ago, and so we decided to leave the airport and go get a B&B, and across the street was a little Irish pub. I mean, it was like a 20-hour layover or something. And Irish pub. You could get cheeseburgers, you could get pizza, you could get probably Chinese and Italian. But anyway, there was a Guinness Irish stew on the menu, so we decided we're going to try that. They ought to be able to be good at it. And it came with a pint of Guinness. And I told my wife, you're not going to like this. I've never liked it. I've had it all over the place, in bottles and on draft and, different stuff. Never liked it. But we're going to have it anyway because we're in Dublin and I've heard it might be better. And so it came, and the Irish stew was great, but the Guinness was life-changing. It was sort of sweet and creamy. It was kind of between like a really strong dark beer and root beer. I mean, it was just, my wife said it was not only the best beer she'd ever had, it might, I mean, it might be the best beverage she's ever had. That was how good it was. It was just, it was leagues above anything I could ever remember. And so I asked the owner of the pub, you know, why is it so terrible everywhere else? And she says, it doesn't travel well. You know, when we were standing waiting for the Uber back to the airport, you could see these big, beautiful stainless steel tanker trucks with Guinness across, boom, boom, boom. You know, and I bought cheese curds at the Piggly Wiggly. And my wife got suckered into a bunch of cheese curds that I have in my refrigerator here at the office because they were so terrible. And I actually put my business card on them and went up to the office, Mr. Fox's desk, Fox Brothers Piggly Wiggly, and I wrote a note to him with my business card, and I said, you know, you might be able to ship these all over the country, and people think they're cheese curds, but we live in Wisconsin, and we know what a cheese curd is. So sometimes there's more to it than just outsourcing. Sometimes the genuine article is from the genuine place of origin. So keep that in mind and try to keep your local brewery going. I vote for Huber in Monroe, Wisconsin. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.